Right, we are back here and we are here for a C-section. Now, some of you might have been wondering why you've not seen one of these before. To tell you the truth, it's because normally this is sort of an emergency. We're going straight in and the last thing I want to do is get my camera out and set it up while we need to deliver a calf. This one is a little bit different. I'm going to explain how it's different in a voiceover. We've got vet student Archie clipping up. I'm not going to do too much talking now, but what I am going to do is set the cameras up and hopefully do a good voiceover. So, without further ado, let's get going. Right, no, that's good, that's good. Right, what we'll do is if you start drawing up some more...
So yeah, bring it out in the socks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to tie it.
So yeah, what I'll do is we'll have two on the go if we can swap. Yeah, okay. So I'll be injecting while you're drawing the next one up, then I'll hand you that back. There's a...
There's only so much you can learn with a lecture slide in the video.
You know the temperament. Watch yourself now. Mine, I'm not sure that pink hat's becoming.
I don't know what you mean.
I've got one.
Jenny loves the hot pink, you see. So
Yeah, but the black ones are made of the other fabric.
more felt.
At least you can't lose them like that.
Yeah,
It's on call at 3 AM in the morning.
it's very safe, high vis.
That series of injections there was the local anaesthetic, which in a few minutes is going to numb the flank. If you keep your eyes peeled, you will see me a bit later testing that block by poking the flank before making the first incision. For any students watching this, I use a very straightforward line block. You'll see others used on placements like inverted L or paravertebral. I use a line block for its speed and simplicity, but the others have their upsides too. This will be a great topic to discuss with vets when you're out seeing practice. Those injections should be the most uncomfortable part of the whole procedure. This isn't an emergency section. Instead, this is an elective section, meaning it is, to some extent, planned. This is the last heifer to calve, while the earlier heifers were having some very large calves which required assistance. Because we know the dates that the bull was taken away from these heifers, we know that even if he mated her on the very last day, she's at least a week overdue. This is a problem because when calves have a longer gestation, they tend to have a bigger birth weight and so are more likely to require assistance. To top it off, this bull's father was also rather hard calving, so hopefully you can see why we took the decision to go ahead with a C-section. Incidentally, a very common choice in human mothers. There are several layers of muscle and connective tissue to negotiate before entering the abdominal cavity. Once I'm into that, there is a certain amount of wrestling to bring the uterus containing the calf up to the incision. One farmer whose partner has had a C-section recently reported back that it felt as if someone was doing the dishes inside her abdomen. Another described it as someone rummaging around in a handbag. Nonetheless, this heifer seems to tolerate it well and is a good patient while I locate the uterus, heave her back leg up, and then enlist vet student Archie to cut the uterus before providing the extra muscle to pull that calf out.
So, basically you want to cut up and down, like up over that foot. Let's start lower down. Nice big hole. Right back up, right up to my hand. Okay. Don't worry about my hand. Okay.
Don't cut the vet.
Bloody. Right, Archie. I want you to pull upwards. Yeah. Right, onto the...
And it is as easy as that. While the farmer looks after the calf, we start to put the heifer back together, working perhaps unsurprisingly in reverse order to our incisions. A set of uterine clamps allow for relatively sympathetic handling of the uterus, which is the first thing to get stitched back together. For any students watching, if you are after a proper guide to bovine sections, I've put a link to 2 great in-practice articles which provide a great base from which to then improvise once you're comfortable with the technique. Now, it is at this point I realised the first camera maybe didn't have the best placement and that I hadn't turned the GoPro to my right on. I know you expect better of me. What can I say? I can at least show you the uterus sewn up before returning it back to the abdomen. Thereafter, it's a couple of other layers to close up before the skin. To tell you the truth, I've never been a natural surgeon. It's something I've had to work at. But the beauty of the editing room is that I can speed up this footage, which nicely smooths out any lack of surgical prowess. What this is a great opportunity to demonstrate to Archie here some of the anatomy and clinical techniques. It's important that they get to grips with this and are able to translate what they learn in the lecture theatres into some on-farm experience.
So yeah, Archie, I tend to do, everyone's a bit different. I tend to do your peritoneum and your transversus abdominis without being too precious about it, just more speed. That's something Jenny taught me, just try and get it close. I mean, I'm not by no means the fastest. If you want to see a super fast cesarean, that's for Jenny. Okay. She's super duper fast. But if you can get that first layer closed, doesn't have to be too, again, pretty. And then you can take maybe a bit more time on the internal and external abdominals. Okay. Yeah, just trying to get in that. Because obviously, the longer the abdomen's open, higher risk of infection. It's just simple continuous. That will be pretty standard, I would say.
Cat gut, yeah.
Yeah, cat gut. You talking about Archie, you talking about the calf? You should call that calf Archie.
Well, we will.
Oh, is it a girl? Well, it's anything goes.
He's just about as manly as me.
Anything goes these days with names, isn't it, and gender? So I'd say there's no barrier. The muscles tend to get thicker as you go down as well, Archie. So the transversus abdominis, you barely see it up there, but down here it does get, you can sort of get more of a handle on it. So again, there's your external.
Yeah, internal.
Sorry. External, internal, and then there is your transversus. Yeah, it's definitely a smaller muscle than.
Is it more like aponeurosis up at the top there?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great word. Aponeurosis. My little pet theory. Right, Archie. I'll do the first skin thing and I'll show you how it's done. Well, not how it's done, how I do them. Again, everyone's got a different way of doing things. With the practice, we all do horizontal mattress. It looks ugly, but it's very functional. Okay. So it's interrupted, so you just come. That. Yeah. And you just come back the way you came, just a bit lower. Yeah. So. Wow, silly. So you've got your two loose ends there. Yeah. Round a couple of times. Oh, that'll get a bit less. Round a couple of times. Grab into that and just crank. You want it to come up in like two lips, which it sometimes doesn't like to do, but.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. See what I mean? Ugly.
Yeah.
Drive the small animal surgeons mad.
But we like doing that.
But we like doing that, so that's okay. But you see, you get that real nice seal.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You get a quick one.
And then it just falls away. And also, this drove Hattie mad as well. I said it leaves a really big scar. So if some poor vet would come, you know, if Mary wasn't sensible and she decided to keep it,
Yeah.
there you go. The next vet came back and did it with C when they shaved it up. It's a really big scar.
Not going in there.
Yeah, it's worse when you drive up somewhere for a carving and it's still got the stitches in from last year. That's when you go, oh.
Well, now the stitches have to be in this, what, about 10 days?
I tend to leave in 2 weeks.
And finally, we get Archie to have a go. As you heard me say, there are several different options for this, each with their pros and cons. The same applies to most clinical techniques. There are many ways to skin a cat and many ways to put it back together. It's through clinical placements like this that students get to determine their knowledge and their style. It's also far better for them to do that under some careful supervision, rather than after graduation. With COVID, the recent crop of students have missed out on a lot of their placements, and so we're all keen to bring them up to speed. Veterinary medicine is a teaching profession at its core, and having students around is not only great fun, but they keep us on our toes too. To finish up, the cow gets some aluminium spray to coat that wound, and her udder check to make sure she's got some colostrum. After that, it's up to her.
I say, grand. That's it, any amount.
Hey lass, it's okay. Don't panic. No. Hey lass, it's okay. It's okay. Yep.
Yeah, I get the blue.
I will. Oh, that's good, man. Right. Thank you very much.
No, that's okay. So there you go, happy days, live calf. Went reasonably smoothly. Cow will be on a few days of antibiotics, but fingers crossed, that should be her. I hope you enjoyed that.